Before we start, just want to thank all of our fans who traveled to East Lansing this past week. They were great. We could feel their presence in the stadium. And as we get headed into Big Ten season, I just want to remind all our fans that we do have the best fans in the land, and we are the standard for excellence. And we always handle ourselves in first class, and so excited to see everybody out here on Saturday. And secondly, just want to congratulate Chris Ward, who's going into the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm going to be celebrating him this weekend, and also 3 former Buckeyes that are going into the Ohio State Athletics Hall of Fame: Jeff Logan, Braxton Miller, and Matt Wilhelm. So excited to celebrate their accomplishments here this weekend as we head into Iowa.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach. Let's open up the press conference over here to the right, Don DeBerry, WVNS.
All right, Coach, take a look at Iowa. How much does the competition level go up as you look at them, and how big of a challenge is it?
Yeah, huge challenge. This is a challenge for all of us. This is a very good team. They play physical. You guys know who they are. They have not changed their identity in a long time, and they have very, very good coaches and physical players, a veteran team. So, we're going to get challenged in a lot of areas, and this is challenging our whole building this week. We got to have a great week of practice. They're going to be coming hard. They're physical. They're well coached. They're fundamental, and they have an identity. So, we know what a challenge this is going to be this week, and so it starts right here. Well, actually started right after our practice on Sunday, and get in here, watch the film, and then it's going to start here on the practice field. We got to have a great practice today.
Far right, Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Right, on Saturday, Jordan Hancock was talking post-game about Caleb Down and saying he's like a coach on the field. Obviously, a guy who's a sophomore in college who's played 4 games here. There was a middle part of the game where he was on the sideline. Basically, I could see him coaching up Jordan on the field. How different is it to have a guy of that football IQ and that ability combined, and what has he meant to the defense, even though he hasn't had what a lot of people consider splash plays until this last weekend?
Well, I think for the first couple of games, the game got a little bit lopsided later on, so you just don't, you don't see them playing a full game. But that's here now, and Caleb made some huge plays in that, especially in that middle 8 there. His first off, his preparation is remarkable. Just the amount of work he puts in, and his ability to play really fast certainly is part of his makeup. But when you put preparation in and you know what you're looking at and you can react faster because you put that much preparation in, that's a sign of a veteran player. He plays that way. He's got great energy. He's a great teammate. He does communicate well. But even late in the game, he's encouraging the younger guys. He knows what it means to pull along other guys, and he's shown that. There's also a certain level of calmness back there. When he's back there with Lathan. These guys have played a lot of football. They've seen it. There's no panic, but they're also identifying the things that they got to get fixed.
To hear a reminder for the rest of the coaching staff, what's important in recruiting now and how the game has changed?
Yeah, it certainly has changed, and you never can quite predict what it's going to look like for everybody's journey, but he's somebody that's certainly, since he's even been here in a short period of time, made a huge impact on us.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, how did you assess the 2 right guards that you were playing on Saturday? And do you think that you guys will come to a conclusion on which one of those 2 could be the permanent guy there?
I don't think we're there yet. We'll kind of see how the practice goes. There was nothing on the film that set one ahead or behind. They both graded out similarly. So when that happens, we feel like, if we can parse out the reps, then that helps both of them play better and stronger in the game. So we'll see how the preparation goes this week and decide as we get closer to the game.
Cameron T. Robinson, the Athletic.
Ryan, when you look at Iowa, obviously really good defenses, right, but especially against the run, you look at them up front, what stands out about the way they contain people when that's all that's out of the field?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, what year you watch them. It's, the same guys inside. They're just, they play with great technique. They're well coached. They understand how they fit into the defense. Their pad level's low. Their hands are low. They play physical. Like you said, they run to the football. Coach Parker does a great job in making sure they understand how they're being attacked. And, you just look year after year, it's similar in terms of the statistics and the production. And they know what they're recruiting there, and they do a great job. So it's a real challenge for our offense this week, and we got to have a great week of practice.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Ryan, do you think Sonny Styles is settling at linebacker quite at the rate that you thought he would at this point in the season? I know it's still early, he's still learning.
Yeah, I think he's made that transition pretty rapidly. You know, that's a big move to go from safety to linebacker, and you're seeing a lot of great things there. But, you know, anytime you're doing some things for the first time, you're learning as well, but he's learning fast.
And real quick, the last offensive play of the game for you, you weren't too happy with Julian. Was he not supposed to throw the ball there? I guess what happened in that whole thing?
If he was going to throw it there, he better complete it. I can tell you that. But you know, those are the type of things that you can't replicate, even though it's late in the game and the score is what it is. Like, you know, we got to learn. We got to push through those things. You got to put that you know, back of your head and learn from those things. So we were excited to get him that rep and learn from that rep, which I know he will.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North, and the podcast.
Ryan, it seems like every week you guys have kind of layered something, some kind of change up onto your run game. How do those conversations go with you and Chip and Justin to decide what you're going to pull out a certain week and maybe what you're going to maybe keep on the shelf or something down the road?
Yeah, it's constant. It's going on right now. You know, we're constantly going back and forth and trying to figure out how do you put your players in position to be successful. How do you give them enough that, you know, they're doing what they know well, what our fastball is, but also having some change-ups along the way. And when you're playing against a defense like this, you better line up and play and know what you're doing. So it's that back and forth of trying to figure those things out, and I think that's part of the art of putting a game plan together. But ultimately, it comes down to what our players know and what they can execute, and that's what it comes down to. And you know, a couple of those plays were executed well, but you know, again, you know, bigger challenge, you know, really stout defense this week. So it's going to come down to our guys, you know, winning their one-on-one battles and executing them at a high level.
When you guys ran a pretty cool play against Marshall where I think you pulled 3 guys, and then I think you ran the same play against Michigan State, but you used a Mecca instead of a second tight end. When I'm assuming it's Chip that throws that idea out, or are you just like, yeah, let's try a Mecca there? Or is any part of you like, I don't want to have a Mecca block on like linebacker in the hole?
It sounds like you're sitting in our meetings. Those are all part of the conversation, and there's pluses and minuses to all. But like for a Mecca to do that, make that block on a linebacker, and then come back and pin, you know, the nickel the way he did, and then he was more excited about that. I don't know if you saw him on the field. He was fired up after that play when Jeremiah's scoring. You know, so he's 20 feet away blocking a nickel. Jeremiah scoring a touchdown, and he's over here like, you know, just celebrating. I mean, to me, that's winning football. And again, he had some really big plays again in this game, but he does all the dirty work, and that's a sign of a really good player and a really good football team is when guys are willing to do the dirty work. And that's an example of you know, not a lot of you know, wide receivers are going to go in there and stick their nose in there like that. The play wasn't necessarily designed for him to block a linebacker, but you got to clean the thing up on the way up, and that's what he did.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, the last 2 weeks you guys have allowed the opposing offense to move in the first half, score some points. Second half adjustments seem to be working. How do you balance knowing what you want to know going in and getting those stops in the first half versus, hey, we're doing a good job of figuring it out on the fly and shutting things down?
Yeah, and also, like you said, not giving up, you know, X plays and long drives for touchdowns. I mean, that's part of it too as we go into it. I think going into this game, I think in our numbers we were like 11-3 or 10-3 in terms of X plays, you know, offense to defense. And when you're doing that, you're going to win a lot of games. I think the turnover battle was 3-1 in the last game. You're going to win a lot of games if you do that. So we have to, you know, focus on some of those things, but also, like you said, you know, we want to get stops. We want to, you know, force 3 and outs. So there's a back and forth on that, and constantly talked about. And you know, we're going to deal with the same thing this week. These guys are you know, made improvements in a lot of, you know, areas on offense, and I think they're playing really well. So again, another challenge for our defense here is these guys come in.
Has the iPad helped that, being able to adjust maybe quicker than a year ago when you have to get to the locker room and talk about a lot of stuff?
It's the same for both sides. So I'm with you, but I think the communication has been good. But you know, they also have the video too, so they're watching film, so they're making adjustments along the way. But yes, I do think for the communication part of it, it has you know, made that a little bit more streamlined.
Tony Gertman, Buckeye Huddle.
Brian, I assume you're familiar with PFF.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that being like the front-facing grade for how college football players play in a game?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, you know, who's actually doing the grading, and if it's accurate, great. But I think it's hard sometimes for them to know exactly what their job responsibility was. That being said, you know, I think generally it's in the ballpark. But I don't know, if somebody who doesn't really know what's expected on a certain play is going to give the same grade as a position coach who knows exactly what's going on. So that's kind of my take on it.
Do you tell your players, don't worry about that? You get the real grades from the coaches? Like, do you have
It never really comes up, quite honestly. Yeah, I mean, it's not something that our guys have quite talked about all that much.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you guys switched kickoff returners again for the second game in a row from Mecca. Kind of what went into that decision, and do you expect Mecca to continue in that role going forward?
We going into that game, we felt like there was, a chance of, them trying to steal a possession, and Brandon was really good up front, and Mecca, fielding the kicks back there. We just felt like that was the right personnel. We're going to try to make the best decisions on a weekly basis based on the personnel of our guys and what we're going up against. And, based on, the way he was kicking the ball anyways, a lot of them were out of the end zone. So, we try to figure all those things in. And the good news is we do have some different options to go with and, different scheme this week. So, we'll move some more pieces around this week.
Stefan Kreisnik, Cleveland.com.
We saw Wednesday, right before we spoke to you, Aaron Nolan get his black stripe and kind of the reaction that came with that. Why do you think that tradition and those kind of moments are celebrated so much by the players, even the veteran guys that have had it removed for years now?
Yeah, not to get too much into in particular air, but I think when you see somebody who you say like earn their stripes, and they've taken their black stripe off, when they've really earned it, I think there's a sense of accomplishment there. And I think that was the right time for Air. He's done a really good job, these past couple of weeks of focusing on getting better. I mean, that's his focus right now, just getting better. And everybody has different journeys along the way, and he's got a team that really cares about him, and he's improving every day. And I think to be recognized like that, to see, okay, I've come from a certain place, I'm not near where I need to be, but I've earned the respect of my coaches and my teammates, and that's a huge accomplishment. And it was good to see him get a stripe off.
When Josh was talking about it a few weeks ago, he said his first year, for Josh Fryer, all he thought about was getting his black stripe removed. I guess how much is that something, an initiative for maybe the younger guys who don't see the field as much, to have something to play for and practice and whatnot?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. What are you working towards every day when you walk in the building? And it's easy when maybe you're not seeing the field very much to get caught into a rhythm of just kind of going through the motions. But these days can be long, but the weeks go real fast, and before you know it, the season will be over, and you got to have something to show for it. You got to see some improvement along the way, whoever it might be, and so you got to maximize every day. And sometimes as a young player, that's not always easy, but we try to find different ways. After Sunday practice, we keep some of the guys out for some extra work who maybe didn't get work during the game. Today, an inside drill, the threes will get their reps in front of everybody, so, but the scout team looks are very, very important as well. And they're going to be even more and more important as we start getting closer, to the end of the season. So, we got to see improvement, but good to see, those guys continuing to get better and having a great attitude when they walk in the building.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, the situations, these are all different, but you went for it on fourth down a handful of times. It was at the 3-yard line, and then your own territory, then the fourth 5 leads touchdown in Mecca. But what's your level? What's the thought process in those situations? What's the level of comfort in going for it on all those plays?
Some of it has to do with where we are on the field. In particular, I'd say that 4th and 5 play. If we were maybe a little bit further in and had a little bit more of a high percentage field goal, maybe we would have taken the field goal at that point. But felt like we were right out of that range, and so there was a timeout, and we came over and decided that we had a good play. 'Cause that's a big part of it as well. You got to feel like you have a good play that you're going to go to. The 4th and 3 down in the 3-yard line, I felt like at that moment, 7 points is way more important. And even if we didn't get in, the ball's on the 3-yard line, and if we can get a stop there, then we get the ball back at midfield. So, every game, based on the score, based on how things are going, you got to take those things into consideration. We do have, analytics that in that moment, I'm getting information on what the chart says and what the statistics say. But, sometimes you got to just, trust your gut, trust your team based on a lot of different scenarios.
On paper, you guys are going for it a little more this year than on fourth down last year. That the analytics part of it, is it having a super senior quarterback and Will just?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the situations and being aggressive right now and trying to get as many plays as we possibly can in these games. But we'll look in each week. We'll try to do what's best to win the game, and that's the most important thing.
Far left, Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Ryan, progression of Jeremiah in this offense. What are you seeing from defenses realizing this guy is a guy we have to stop, and is there an evolution of they're doing more and more things?
I think that's the tricky part right now is, how much can you do because of all the other things that are going on, and that's the idea of putting stress on defense. But there's no question that people will know where number 4 is when he's on the field.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you said you hold your quarterbacks to an especially high standard. It seems like Will Howard's done everything right. A few mistakes here and there in decisions. To the somewhat untrained eye, it looks like sometimes he locks on to receivers. Is that something that needs to be developed? Do you guys see that? Is that off the mark? And how do you develop that?
I don't know. I haven't recognized that just as something that continues to show up. But I think certainly on the interception he could have moved on. There's no question about that. Yeah. So that's trust in your drop, trust in your eyes, and making sure your eyes are in the right spot. But there's times where he's found himself back on 3 and 4, and it may not seem like it because his eyes quickly went back to 3-4. And that's a big part of working progressions is, okay, I have 1 and 2 over here, but what are my eyes telling me? If my movement key or whatever my key is for that play tells me I'm working front side, great. If all of a sudden I see something over here that tells me I'm backside, then I'm backside. So the idea of moving on from like 1, 2, 3, 4 really comes down to your eyes, and then based on what the play is. I mean, sometimes it's pick a side. So, I'm working over here versus certain coverage, man or zone, 2 high, 1 high, or I'm working over here. And so, based on, what the play asks us to do, sometimes it's throw the ball to him. That happens sometimes. So, there's a lot that goes with it. But to answer the short answer is, when we're talking about moving through progressions, it really comes down to your eyes and where you're looking. And that can really get you through the progressions a lot faster.
Unrelated, is this schedule about as good as you could have dreamed up in terms of progression, or would you rather see a power team early? I mean, you've kind of built through these 3 teams, and you have Michigan State, then you have Iowa before Oregon. I mean, it seems pretty set up for you.
I think after the season, you probably will be able to sit back and look at it and evaluate it a little bit more. We're so in it right now, I think it's hard to tell. But I think it's a legitimate question because I think it is a very different feel than maybe the last couple of years. But it's not changing how we approach it. It's just, like you said, a little bit of a different feel. So probably too early to tell. We'll focus on this game and try to win this game and continue to do that, and then kind of come up for air at the end of the season and figure out where we're at. Yeah.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, it looks like Will Howard's up about 15% in those intermediate throws from last year. Is this what you kind of expected and envisioned with his development in terms of accuracy, and how much does that factor in for that 4th and 5 decision to go for it, comfort level?
Yeah, it's a big. I mean, both of those 4th down throws were both really well thrown against man coverage. Just where only G could catch it and really Mecca could catch it. I mean, those were contested throws that you want to give him those opportunities. I'm sure he's done it before, but it's for us to see him do it here for us is different as well. So. Those are big, and then the protection was huge. The guys up front, I thought, did a nice job in protection. Travion was big in protection. So those are all challenging plays where you got to stand in the pocket and you got to hang in there and make those throws. So good to see him make those and build some confidence on that.
Deep right, Andy from WBNS.
Ryan, when you talk about Travion and blocking, you talk about Mecca making a big play. How much have you seen those plays grow with your team? And how much do those build a championship team? Not necessarily the one-hand catches, not the great throws, but the behind-the-scenes.
That's it. It's the effort. It's the hard work. It's the dirty work. It's all that stuff. And that's a sign of a good team and a team that's playing hard and playing physical. And, Seth McLaughlin finishing a guy into the end zone. And that's the stuff that we constantly watch with our guys on Sundays, the effort plays. And we're going to need them this Saturday. But that's it. And that's being unselfish. Why are you playing so hard for your teammates? And we got to keep building on that. I mean, that's got to be a huge part of our identity this season. Has been so far. I mean, it's on the film, but we got to keep getting better at it. We need everybody to do it.
It's actually Adam King from WBNS. Awesome work, podcast.
Right. I think we've latched on to the fourth downs, but do you feel overall, even including Sunday to Friday, that do you feel like you're coaching more aggressively than you have from the last couple of years? I know that might be difficult to answer, maybe not fair. I just wonder if you feel that at all.
I think with this team and just in my role, you can target things a little bit better. You can be on things a little bit better. You can give more thought to how you're addressing the team, how you're addressing the coaches, the overall approach. Focusing on what really matters, which is like how hard you play and your fundamentals and the big picture things. So, whatever it is, but it's also this team. I love this team. I love the way they play, So like every day when I wake up, I put 2 feet in the ground to try to, do everything I can to help this team, reach their dreams and goals. Because these kids are unbelievable and they're giving everything they possibly have, and we got to keep pushing them as coaches, and that's our job. And it's their job to take the coaching and continue with the great chemistry we have and great effort. So we got to put a great game plan together, give it to the players, and then have a great week of practice. But yeah, I mean, we're all coaching aggressively. Yeah.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
First of all, you make a quarterback going through progression sound like it's the easiest thing in the world, as if it's not like chaos going on back there. But kind of to follow up on some of the blocking stuff you've been asked today, sometimes when people bring up toughness, I think people just dumb it down to just, can you push that guy further than he pushes you? And There's a lot more to that. And when you've been having those conversations over the last couple of years and trying to get that through to your team, how much of it is just simply the execution of a play? Because it seems like whether it's the wide receivers or the offensive linemen or even the tight ends or even what Travion's doing, there's been a bigger focus on executing, and now you're seeing that happen on Saturdays.
Well, it's got to continue. Let me go back to the first thing. I think it's every coach's job to make things that maybe aren't simple. They're not easy, but you got to make them simple as coaches. It's 1 to 2. It's A to B. And it's not always that easy, but it's simple, and that allows players to play fast and with discernment. So I think whether it's a quarterback or anybody else, that's really important as coaches. We can't have these guys thinking too much. We got to put them in drills, got to put them in teamwork during the week, and keep it simple for them. And let them play and let them use their athletic ability. But no, I just think the effort's been good so far. We're practicing that way on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in particular, and so. It's showing up, during the game, and but we got to keep pushing. We got a long way to go this season.
It seems through the first 4 games, you guys have made an emphasis on getting as many guys snaps as possible. You've even said as much. As you move into maybe this middle part of the schedule, how do you balance that, trying to still build depth at them positions, but also whether it's right guard, whether it's linebacker, maybe narrowing some things down and focusing on who your best guys are now that you're in this part of the schedule?
We got to win. We got to win this game. This is going to take everything we got to win this game. So we're going to in this game right here, we're going to put the best players in there to win the game. Period. And that's it. I mean, that's the focus right now.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Another question about Iowa's defense. You're right. I mean, I think everyone knows that. You think of Iowa, you think of their defense.
Yep.
Norm Parker, they've done the same thing. They're not getting 4- and 5-star guys generally. It's a developmental program.
Right.
What is it about that defense that makes it so hard? Is it just they make you earn everything?
Yeah, and they know what they're developing, and they're typically veteran players who have played a lot of football before. They're usually not 18, 19, 20. They're usually older guys. They have some young players in there, but they usually have guys that have matured, and they're physically mature and mentally mature and emotionally mature, and they understand the defense. And this is a great example of a defense coordinator who keeps it simple. Not easy, but it's simple. I mean, it's they know how they're going to get attacked, and so they work those things, and so they know what their weaknesses are, they know what their strengths are, and they know how to protect certain things, and that's when you have continuity over a certain amount of time with the staff that he has and the way that they do it, and playing complementary football, understanding how you fit in with the offense, defense, and special teams. That's what you got.
Can you imagine coaching in your 26th year at one place?
No.
And is it fun for you as a coach, as Nexus Nose guy, to go against a defense like this?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's going to come down to the players. So we've got to do a good job of keeping it simple and letting them play. That's it. You know, if you start to get into a situation where you're going to out-scheme somebody, it's not going to go well against these guys. So we got to keep it simple. We got to let them play. Give them an advantage. In terms of putting them in the situation to be successful. But to say we're going to out-scheme Iowa, that's not going to happen. You got to play hard.
And final questions, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Thanks, Jerry. Going back to a little bit of what Austin was asking you and a little bit of what Bill Landis, I know they're connected, but number one, do you think you've thrown enough variety out there the first part of the season for when y'all line up in a 4th and 5, the defense really doesn't have a real grip on what you're about to do? And then number two, when you turn a 4th and 5 or whatever it was into a touchdown, does it feel like instead of throwing a punch, you've thrown a haymaker? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we're always trying to do that. We're trying to make sure that we can't get narrowed in on what we're doing, and that's by design. But yeah, I mean, there's certain plays in a game, those game-altering plays that you got to make, and we made those plays the other night. That's just the truth. I don't think we always played great the other night, but we made the game-altering plays. We forced 2 fumbles down the red area. The 4th downs we converted on. That goes the other way, it's a different game. That's just the truth. And so the issues are always there. We got to identify what the issues are and get them addressed and get them fixed and keep growing on those things. But you're right. I mean, those plays are the ones that have to be made in a game. We all know how important some of those are, and they'll swing an entire game. So, I think identifying that is appropriate.
And one of the quickie, just to follow, do you guys as a staff, I thought staffs used to go over with officials in pregame somewhere what formations you might throw out there that might catch your eye and don't, and it looks like a couple of times the last couple of weeks, y'all have run kind of the same kind of thing, but the official didn't recognize it. The flag was picked up eventually, but do y'all still do those things?
We do. Yeah. We have after the 100-minute meeting, they come in and we just go over different things, things maybe that, are a little bit different formation-wise, so it doesn't catch them off guard, and any concerns that we may have.
Thanks, man.
Yep. All right, guys. Yep.
Quick turnaround, but guys are attacking it really well. Certainly excited to get back in front of our fans. It's been a while since we've been here, so getting in front of Autzen will be, quite the challenge and a good opportunity for us to see where we've improved and continue to get better. Obviously excited to get to play a good Michigan State team, really well coached, do some good things, in every phase of the game. So we can open it up from there.
Right here on the left, Eric. Coached against Jonathan before. How similar does this look? Obviously, totally different personnel, but is there some similarities in terms of what he's trying to do?
Yeah, there's definitely some, similar pieces. I think they always do a good job of challenging you in the run game, creating different pictures than maybe what you see, across college football. They always do a great job of that. Defensively a little bit different than what they were last year at Oregon State, but still really, really sound, and do some things that challenge you as well.
On the right, Zach.
I know you don't typically get into the uniforms, but that might be different this week with your wife and kids having a part to play in the design. What does that mean to you, and what was this process kind of like getting that off the ground?
Yeah, really that it kind of sparked as soon as we got here. It was really cool that Nike reached out, about maybe being able to create something. And I know it was really important to my wife that it was something that really honored, all forms of cancer and the people that are surrounded by it. I think every single one of us have all been affected by that. So they took a really cool idea and turned it into something really neat. And I think it'll bring, great awareness and some much needed attention to a terrible disease.
Front left, James.
You've coached certainly a good number of elite corners, Dan, including the past 2 seasons with Christian and Kyrie. What makes Jabbar unique, and what makes him elite that way, and particularly at his size, given that those guys were more in the 6 foot plus and he's in the 5'10" range?
Yeah, I just think his knowledge of the game. One thing that really sticks out about Jabbar is he understands the strengths and weaknesses of each call and how he can play those calls differently. I don't know if I've ever been around a player that understands, how they can move themselves around to put themselves in position to make plays based on the coverage called, what the strengths or weaknesses of that coverage is, and Jabbar does a really good job of that.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, Oregon is 6-0 all time at Autzen Stadium on Friday night games. What do you feel like your team does right, and why do you feel like you guys have some success in some of these Friday night games, and maybe what are some of the challenges in it as well?
Yeah, generally I would always say success points back to preparation, right? They're obviously on a short week. We're on a short week as well, but our guys came out there again to work today, did a really good job, but it's about stacking the next few days as well. and continue to improve. And then obviously our fan support in Autzen is unbelievable, right? When you have the fans that we have, they make a huge impact on that game.
Aiden is somebody you recruited and obviously game planned against last year when he was at Oregon State. What were things that maybe impressed you about him when he was in high school, and then what kind of a progression have you seen to now from him?
Yeah, he's a really talented player. One of the biggest things that sticks out is the way he's able to keep plays alive and continue to make things happen with his legs. Their average depth of target is way downfield, right? They take a lot of shots. They have some wideouts out there that have done a good job winning on the perimeter, and he throws a really good deep ball. So I think those are probably the two things that stick out the most is the ability to connect on deep shots, and then his ability to extend plays with his feet.
Right, Zach?
Everyone playing and coaching this game obviously has history with Friday Night Lights. Do you kind of play into that a little bit, this game not being on a typical Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely. Showed a little bit of the Permian football team today in our team meeting.
James.
What's the credit for the linebacker core's improvement as a whole, Dan? Whereas I'd say it's, at this point, probably the best of your tenure and probably the best of many years before that in terms of not just being top-heavy and relying on one guy, where you're getting it from the top three at a pretty elite level right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of credit goes to those guys and the work that they've put in, and then certainly a ton of credit goes to Coach Michalowski and the job he's done of developing those guys and getting them ready. Our scheme isn't necessarily the easiest thing for linebackers, so having a guy that can coach them really well is very important. And Brian's done a great job with those guys, but that's also one of the hardest working groups on our team. One of the most accountable groups on our team, and they hold themselves to a higher standard as well.
Childs isn't the only Oregon State player on this offense. They also have center Tanner Miller and tight end Jack Velling. Just what have you seen from their film so far this season?
Yeah, that obviously Jack at tight end has been a guy that they used a lot at Oregon State, and he's still a big piece of their offense right now. They target him a lot, they get him the ball a lot, and so he's a guy that again we're familiar with, and you see some. You're watching film from last year, and you see some similar schemes to what they were running, at Oregon State, still being run now at Michigan State. And then at center, he's a ton of experience. Tough player. Has done a really good job as well.
On the left, Eric.
It seemed like this was maybe Poncho's best game playing center. I guess, did you feel similar, or I guess how did you assess his play, and is that where you anticipate him kind of being the rest of the year?
Yeah, I thought he played really well. And I think there's several guys that had good games this game, but yeah, I thought Poncho played well, looked comfortable, and I think, is that somewhere we'd love to be able to keep him? Yeah, but that's also dictated a little bit by how's the rest of the season go and what's it look like with other people positionally as well.
Back left, back.
Started to see a little bit more of Kyler Casper and Justice Lowe. Just what's been their evaluation through 4 games, and what are you seeing out of them?
Yeah, they're proven to be accountable. Trustworthy guys that do their job. Kyler's become a guy that has a role in the red area for us. Justice, every time we've called his number, he's gone out there and done really what he's supposed to do. And I think if you continue to grow, that you're going to continue to get opportunities.
On the right, Zach.
I know it's still early in the week, but do you have an outlook for Terrence for this week?
Yeah, he practiced today. He'll be ready to roll.
Front left, James.
We talked about familiarity and guys going against their former teams. What does Derek Harmon's knowledge of their defense, how does that help you guys this week? Since he was there in the spring, it's a little bit different compared to guys who were there a year or two ago. Yeah, there's some, but ultimately on both sides of the ball, there's some familiar faces on both sides of the ball for them and us. And I think that you still got to go out there on the field and execute.
You guys going to continue to rotate back with quarterbacks in terms of entering in that kind of a situation? Just any comment on Austin over Dante there?
Yeah, no comment other than just continue to utilize our guys and we'll roll whoever we feel like we need to roll out there in those situations.
Back left, Matt.
How would you evaluate the success of just the overall run game at the running back position for you guys through 4 games?
I'd say there's positives and negatives. I still think we're waiting to break some second level, tackles. I think that's something that can show up that can create a little bit more, explosive nature in our run game. But I do think we're hitting holes in the right spots. I think it's something we got to continue to be able to lean on and make sure that we can improve, because when you become a team that can run the ball extremely well, it opens up everything else in your offense.
Back right, Aaron.
Be the first game, home game of the season. Now that class is in session. First, looking at the student section for Friday, what are your expectations just about the crowd and having the students back, but also the student athletes now being back in school and advice that you've given them about now having to manage both being a student and an athlete?
Well, that's the piece, right? We're all here as student athletes first, so and getting that degree is extremely important, and doing a great job in the classroom is really important. So we had a lot of conversations about that today. Different challenge to be able to do it kind of within season, but a lot of teams have been doing it for a lot longer in the season. So it certainly can be an advantage for us, but something that challenges as well. And then I think our fans will be outstanding. They always are.
Left, James.
What has Nico done to go from a rotational outside guy and a nickel guy for you last year to really kind of carving out that CB2 spot for you guys at this point, Dan?
Yeah, I think he's just shown a level of consistency. He's done a really good job there. Him and Dante both are rolling quite a bit at corner, and they both earned those opportunities.
Back left, back.
Turnovers, first time since I think the first game of the season. Anything in particular the defense collectively did to force those, or just good plays by an individual?
No, I think I've said before that turnovers usually come in bunches, right? And even some of the stuff that we had kind of planned in that game didn't necessarily dictate that we would create more turnovers. It's just continue to attack the ball, and when those opportunities come, making sure that you can come away with it.
Back to James.
Starting to see more from Kenyon each week. At what point, if at all, does it get to a conversation of him getting more opportunities, not just in general, but even perhaps more opportunities than Pat? And I realize that Pat's excellence is also in the blocking capacity, but at what point do the rep counts perhaps flip, if at all?
Yeah, every one of our tight ends bring a lot of different strengths. I love the way that we're utilizing Kenyon right now, but I also love the way that we're utilizing Pat and Terrence. And when you have multiple guys that can do multiple things, I think it's really important that you tap into those. It also makes it really hard for a defense to hone in on what a guy can do.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, only 6 points in that second half win against UCLA. What do you really attribute maybe the second half offensive struggles to, and how did you kind of attack that in this first practice back on Monday?
Yeah, we did a lot of things to, challenge ourselves from that area. But, part of it starts just with field position. We started with the ball in different locations than early in the game. They were able to flip the field on us. But we also just have to, create consistency and not, hurt ourselves. And that's just continue to kind of be the thing that we recognize, at least, that when we don't hurt ourselves, we have a lot of success. And if we eliminate that, then that's something that's going to make us a lot better, obviously.
What's the timeline for determining if Matt Bedford will seek a waiver for an additional year, and just how that'll impact not just this year, but also the impact it could have on next season?
Yeah, it'll be a conversation we have when it's worth time having that conversation.
All the way in the back on the left, Matt.
What do you like about Mari Washington lining up in the backfield for you guys?
He's big, he's fast, he likes to hit. All those things I think are fun to see out there on the field. So obviously fun for him to get out there and help us.
What's allowed Michigan State's pass rush, particularly Bogle and Turner, to be as disruptive as they've been so far?
Just athletic players. Like, again, I said they're really sound in their scheme, but they do a good variety of things. But those guys understand obviously what they're supposed to do, and then they have talent. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and looking forward to a great game this week at home. It's great to be back at home. Thought the atmosphere up in Rutgers was fantastic. They did a great job there, and it was a really good experience for our guys. 3,000-mile flight or whatever it was, and thought our guys handled it really well. Watched the game, nothing new in terms of watching it on tape. The mistakes were the mistakes. The good plays were the good plays. Certainly a team in the process of getting better. Certainly a team that has shown a lot of potential to be really good. And as we're continuing to build the program the way we want it, I think we'll continue to see more and more flashes of that, and less flashes maybe of some negative plays here or there. But I can certainly see a team that's progressing. I can see a team that is continuing to improve. And I think as we continue to play together, coach this team, build this team, the process will continue to allow us to become the type of team that we all want to be.
How's Javon Parker?
Unfortunately, Javon is out for the year. He tore his Achilles.
The brothers are kind of snake bit a little bit. They haven't been able to both stay healthy here, and a lot of injuries.
Yeah, very disappointing. I mean, I feel for them. They work extremely hard. They come in with a great attitude every day. Those are fluke injuries that have occurred. And hopefully, timing-wise, both of those guys will be able to be ready for spring football, would be the hope. And therefore be able to have a really good spring together and then go into the fall both healthy. But it's obviously, I feel for Javon. He's worked extremely hard to get back and really did a nice job for us when he was in the game.
Is there any thoughts about seeking a medical red shirt or anything in that process for both of them?
We haven't gone that far at all at this point in time. I mean, I think we're 5 games in or whatever it is. I don't know exactly if he's played enough or not enough to get that, but he's got more time left on his clock. And we'll certainly do everything that we can to be able to allow him to play as much college football as he can and as his brother can, and then hopefully wish him the best to get into pro football.
Jedd, what kind of mechanisms do you guys have on the sideline to keep players from running out onto the field like you had there after the block? And what was the breakdown, you think, there after kind of watching the way that whole thing developed?
Yeah, well, one player ran out there, and it was a moment that he got excited. And it was a freshman moment. And I think I've never been a part of that I can remember with the live ball being going on at the exact time. I've never seen that happen. So there's nothing, that's not like that's a normal thing that occurs. That's not like there's something that you expect to have happen. And it was certainly one of those times that we've talked about, you know, what we like the sideline to look like and how we want to have composure and the energy and the excitement takes place on the sideline. And in that case, there was a lot of things that could have been done better there. We had a chance to scoop and score, and we didn't do a good. We got too many guys celebrating while the play was going on and not enough guys making a play on the ball, scooping it, scoring, and going up 10-7 at the half. So that was a frustrating moment, but a learning moment.
Who are some of the guys who you're going to need to step up at defensive tackle without Javon?
The guys that have been playing in the first couple games when he wasn't playing, right? Everybody else is healthy. Everybody else is good to go. So, you know, all those guys are going to have to step up. The same group that played the first 2 weeks of the season. I think Javon's first game back. Well, I think he probably played a little bit of the Eastern Michigan game. But, you know, we obviously need Bandez and Valdez, and we need, you know, the other guys that are all in the trenches. Bryce Butler, I think, will be back for this week. It'll be good to get him back. And then, obviously, Voy has done a great job for us, both inside and outside. And we'll just continue to move guys around and see what the best combination. Maybe Logan can give us a few more reps as well to be able to stop what's going to be a very good running game.
Is there any update on Zach Durfee?
Durfee, I'm optimistic that he'll be able to play in the game this Saturday, but it's going to take a big commitment of treatment and a big commitment of the training room and him really trying to get himself and medically we just got to get his toe right. And if we can do that and he can get to a place where he can plant and run and chase the ball carrier, then he'll play. But that will probably go all the way to game time.
That's the same thing he's been dealing with all along here.
Yeah, that'll be the same. It's the opposite toe, though. It's the other foot.
Did Brian Parham leave over playing time, basically?
Yeah, I think Brian just felt like this situation for him here, he wanted to try to maintain one more year of eligibility. And I think maybe have a place to go start. But we wished him the best, and he'll have an opportunity to go in the transfer portal when it opens.
How do you deal with those situations? Does he still have access to the facilities? Can he be around at all, or how do you guys approach that?
Yeah, players that aren't on the team have the ability to remain on scholarship, have the ability to continue their academic support and their medical support.
So he still has access to all that? He's still with the team, just not playing and practicing? Is that?
No, they have academic support and medical support only.
So how do you deal with, there's this new phenomenon happening now in college football where players want more money during the season. We just had a guy quit UNLV, as you know. Are you constantly keeping an eye on things like that and having to revisit agreements with players as the year goes by?
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly keeping an eye on, let's call it the trends of college football and the way those things are happening with NIL, with the conversations regarding revenue share, with all the latest and greatest news that come out on a daily or weekly basis regarding other teams and other programs and how they're handling their collectives. We've talked prior to the season, and our guys signed contracts that take them through the season. And then I think Mike Gundy said in his press conference that, you know, you negotiate with players at the end of the season. And our guys have been really good about understanding that the commitment we're making right now is to be how good of a football player and how good of a student we can be over these next 3 months. And then come December, when the new world order begins again, then we'll have more conversations regarding how compensation will change within the program. But no, we're not spending much time discussing individual contracts. We're spending a lot of time as an administrative and as a program looking into the future and trying to see how come when January hits, what is that going to look like? And is that going to be through the university? Is that going to be through the collectives? Is that going to be through both? Is that going to be through alumni support, community support, the businesses within Seattle? We have a lot of work to do to make sure that we can continue to remain competitive in this extremely competitive environment. And that's going to take the community, the city, the businesses, individuals, and the university.
Are the contracts throughout the season, are they paid incrementally throughout the season? Are they paid up front at the start of the season?
No, I think, you know, the collective handles exactly how they distribute dollars. And I think depending on each situation, it's different and unique. I don't have access to those contracts, and I don't know exactly how those payouts occur. I do know that we fulfill 100% of our obligations.
Jedd, in the red zone, you guys are 117th in the nation right now, converting 72%. What is it that needs to just improve in terms of execution when you guys get inside the 20?
Yeah, we've had 5 times we haven't scored, right? We're 14 out of 19, I think, in the red zone. We had a 4th and 1 against Northwestern at the end of the game on the 9-yard line, where I guess we could have kicked a field goal to be 15 out of 19. And then we missed a 20-yard field goal and a 25-yard field goal, both of which were red zone plays because they crossed the 20 before we had the penalty to bring us outside of the red zone. So those 2 missed field goals, I guess, put you at 17 out of 19. And we got stopped on the 1 and the 2. So those are the 5 plays, right? So if I guess if we make those 2 field goals and we decide to kick a field goal on the 9-yard line up 24-5, then statistically we'd probably be 35th in the nation. But that doesn't necessarily change that we're not focused on trying to continue to get better down there. I'd love us to complete the corner route to Giles. I would love to have called a different play on a 4th and 1. But in the end, you know, that's kind of what's happened. Those are the 5 red zone possessions we haven't scored on. And I talked to the team about that, you know, candidly, that as we continue to evolve and continue to develop, you know, we're 1 basketball hoop away from 5-0, I guess. You know, we're 3 yards, right? We're 3 yards away. So 9 feet or 10 feet. We got to convert on a 4th and 1 on the 1 and convert on a 4th and 2 on the 2. and we have two different outcomes. So we've got to just continue to build, and then we're the best story in college football, because then we're a team with 21 new starters and 21 new coaches that are 5-0. So we've got to find a way to continue to get better and make those plays and get better as a team in stops and scoring. And I think if we do that, we'll have a chance to be really good. But this is a process that mistakes are going to occur, and we're going to try to limit them the closer we get to the red zone.
Jedd, you had at Arizona, you guys were the number 10 red zone offense. What was working for you guys so well down there last year?
Well, I mean, I guess as I said, those 5 plays, right? We have a small sample size of 18 plays. So, and those 5 plays, we whatever happened, right? Maybe we made 4 of the 5 last year. But again, I mean, I think it's just a matter of we got to continue to get better. That's all that it comes down to. We got to get better coaching it. We got to get better executing. We got to get better calling it. We got to get better making the play, whatever it might be. It starts with me. And if my job is to continue to get us better in those areas, I know how to, that we can do that. And I really do believe that the more experience we have, we weren't 10th in the nation in the red zone in year 1. We were 10th in the nation in year 3. But I do believe is that the more experience that we have, the better we will be down there.
You have a Michigan transfer and Hayden Moore. Could you give a progress update on him? And does he move up a little bit now that Parham's left?
Yeah, everybody slides 1, I guess you would say. Fowler's back, which is kind of also a difference there. Brian was playing probably 35 snaps a game those 2.5 weeks that Fowler was out. Fowler's back, and he's healthy, so he gives us depth there. Hayden is learning the system, learning the defense, giving us a great look on scout team right now. He's a young player that has a lot of potential to be a really good linebacker for us. We're really excited that he chose to come here. But I think really in the end, this week he's going to do a great job for us. It's a different defense, so it doesn't give you an advantage that he came from Michigan. Coach Martindale wasn't there, but he's done a great job, and I think over the course of time, he's going to be a good contributor.
Is Jonah battling something, or when you mentioned him kind of coming out of some drives, was that more fatigue related?
No, I mean, I think when you're a runner and you run as hard as Jonah does, there's going to be times that you get nicked up here and there and dinged up a little bit. And, the last 20 plays of the game, he wasn't ready to go back in full steam ahead, or if he would have been able to, I would have put him in. So we're just trying to get him healthy, ready to go, get his lower body ready to go. And I think he will be fine for Saturday, excuse me. But right now, we just needed to settle him down after the, 50th play of the game.
Coach, you mentioned all the new players and the new coaches. You've got 5 games now on film. What have you learned about what's the strength of this team? And is it, at this point, are there things you're going to throw out, things you're adding because you see strengths? How does that kind of evolve?
I kind of like the way our team's beginning to play. I think that, if anyone would have told me that we would have gone across the country and outgained the team by 230 yards and not turned it over and not taken a sack and not had a negative play, I would have signed up for that. So if we can continue to evolve offensively and continue to get better there, defensively, we are in the top 10 in scoring defense and total defense. In both offense and defense, we're in the top 20 in yards per play in both sides of the ball. If we can just get better each week, I think we could put ourselves in great position. I think we'll start seeing, none of us would have ever expected us to miss some kicks. Like, Grady Gross is one of the best kickers in the country. So every now and then, I guess there's a fluke day that occurs, but never in a million years would I have guessed that, nor do I ever think it would happen again. On the same token, I think we're just improving. That's our goal. Our goal is to take this process of each week and see how good we can get and recognize that, unlike Michigan, they have 2 guys that came from the portal on their team that's starting in their 2 deep on both sides of the ball. We have 16. So it's a different team. It's a different group. They recruited that team. Most of their coaches were on that staff. We're continuing to evolve and continuing to work on How do we get the best out of every player? I love the way Denzel Boston's continuing to improve. I love the way Zoe is playing. I love the way Carson Bruner's playing. Camper Sard has helped us tremendously. There's so many good positives on the way these guys are evolving as a team. I think if we each week continue to see if we can improve, score a few more points, get a few more stops on third down, make a few more third downs, then all of a sudden things will start coming together. But the process is not overnight. And we're going to just see how good we can get this week and then start it over again for another trip to play at what would be 9 a.m. Pacific time against Iowa.
This is kind of the beginning of where your guys' schedule really ramps up in difficulty. You've got a lot of ranked teams left. Is this team where you want it to be at this point in the schedule?
I think the team is where we are. We would always love to be better. I would love to say that I could, I'd love to coach better. Assistant coaches would love to coach better. Players would love to play better. But our job is each week to get better. And as we're going through this process, I love how much better we've gotten. I think we're starting to see some of the things that we can do as a team. And we're going to have to continue to improve in these games that we have coming up. We've got Michigan this week. That's our full focus. When that game is over, our full focus will be Iowa. But as we've told our team, it doesn't matter. Get better. That's what we tell our team. Doesn't matter if we win, get better. Doesn't matter if we lose, get better. Find a way to get better every single day. And if we do that, I think we'll have a lot more wins than we will losses, regardless of who we play.
You hopeful on winning more this week, or?
Not as hopeful as I would like to be. I think Quentin is probably going to be the biggest challenge. Quentin and Kevin Green, I would say, are most likely out. And I would say everybody else, other than Javon, of course, with the Achilles, and Armand, I think everybody else on the roster should be good to go for Michigan, outside of Quentin and Kevin Green.
What's the biggest challenge in Michigan for you?
They run the ball extremely well, and they play great defense. So they've kept teams. I was watching the USC game before I came up here, and with 12 minutes left in the second quarter, USC had -3 yards, and Michigan had 121 yards, but the score was 7-0. So that was an interesting one. You look at the Minnesota game, it was 24-3 before the game kind of went the other way there for a while. In the fourth quarter, Minnesota got hot, which was, what you saw. I think that, they certainly run the football exceptionally well. Sharon's been there 6 years. That's his run game. He was the offensive line coach. He got there the year after I left. So he was the offensive line coach, I think the tight end coach, then the O-line coach, then the OC. And during that time, you could see how he built it from outside in. The tight ends became an elite group. Then the offensive line became an elite group. And then the whole offense last year was very hard to stop. They're continuing to run the ball at an exceptionally high level. Defensively, they really have run the Baltimore Ravens defense now for 5 years. I guess since 2021, when Don Brown came to Arizona, they hired Mike McDonald, and then from Mike McDonald to Jesse Minter to Don Martindale, all three of them were together in Baltimore. So they run the Ravens defense. So you've got to deal with one of the best defenses, I guess, in the world, right? In pro football, so therefore in the world. And then you've got to deal with, offensively, a team that's really going to ground and pound you. And then as soon as you fall asleep, they're going to hit you on a big one over the top. So we got our work cut out for us. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I'd be shocked if it wasn't absolutely slammed in the stadium with 70, hopefully 75,000, and we can get in trouble for having 2,000 over the limit or something like that. So I hope every student comes out, stands on each other's shoulders if there's no space, and we're going to need the crowd, we're going to need the energy, and we're going to need our healthiest and best football team, and we're going to need our coaches to be at their very best on Saturday as well.
one more real quick red zone question. You guys were second in the country in passing touchdowns last year. What's your just kind of approach to calling runs versus passes in the red zone? What are you looking for?
Yeah, usually the best red zone teams run the ball the best down there. That's traditionally how it works. And then you have a chance to hit a play action pass is what we tried to do on the 4th and 2, was a play action pass. And we ran the ball on 1st and 7 on the 7, then 2nd and 3, and we got a yard. They blitzed the safety. But in general, I'd love to run it in if we could, but there's some issues there if you're outnumbered numbers-wise and you get 2 over 2 or you get 3 over 3 and you have a chance to throw it in, you got to make that play. And, we unfortunately didn't when it was 2 over 2 on 3rd and 4 on the 4, and then we didn't when it was 3 over 3 when it was 4th and 2 on the 2, and really 3 over 3 when it was 3rd and 2 on the 2 when we tried to hit Denzel. So we'll continue to improve on it. We'll continue to get better at it. And I believe that, if we improve with our scoring offense, that'll help all facets of the team. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And good afternoon, everybody. Good to see everybody. And hard to screw last weekend up, so happy to talk about that. More importantly, I thought we had a good bye week, a productive bye week. It was, I think, went pretty smoothly. And needless to say, we turned our attention now to the challenge that awaits us in Columbus this weekend. So basically, say 3 things about Ohio State, 3 facts. First and foremost, they've got really good players, all 3 phases. And I think are really deserving of their ranking, certainly. They've had great production in all 3 phases, and they're really well coached in all 3 phases. So it's kind of what you'd expect with a top-ranked team like that. Just very, very impressive in all regards. And then, in fact, on top of that fact is that we're playing a very hostile environment. The Big Ten's full of a lot of tough venues to go to, and certainly Columbus fits that bill. So, against that backdrop, we have a big challenge in front of us right now. And the bottom line is this, games get played on Saturdays, at least they used to now, Fridays as well. They get played on the game field. So it's really all about the players and what they do. And as we move forward here, and kind of the message we've tried to convey to our team is that, it's all about our preparation. And it's all about, the way we practice and put study in on film, that type of thing. That's what's going to lead to good execution, and that's what it takes to beat a team of this caliber. So, basically, it's really dependent on how we prepare right now this week, and that's where our focus is as we move forward. I think we all have a good, good grasp for what's in front of us there. So, finish our preparation, make sure we go in there with the right mindset, and know that it's going to be, quite a challenge for us. And that's kind of it in a nutshell right now where we're at as a football team. Captains remain the same. Got Jay Higgins and Quinn Schulte defensively, and then Luke Lachey and Cade McNamara offensively will be captains going on for the toss. And then our kid captain this week, I know we're on the road, but we'll have a kid captain. That's 16-year-old Hayden Ulrich, and she's a young lady who at age 7 was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia and underwent treatment over at the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. And happy to say right now she's doing outstanding. 16-year-old doing really well. Outstanding student, aspires to be a nurse. I guess she's very involved in show choir, gets straight A's, and on top of that is taking classes at Kirkwood for her nursing degree. So she's just a tremendous young lady, and I'm told was named after Hayden Fry as well, unlike Hayden Large. She was named after Coach Fry, so no big surprise, but we'll be thinking about her this weekend, and I'll throw it out for questions.
Hey, Kirk, Elliot Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Tons of weapons on this Ohio State offense between Emeka Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith, and then running backs Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. I guess looking at film, what's the strategy in facing a team that has this many weapons?
Yeah, I mean, needless to say, they're very balanced, and they've got good talent at all positions. So it's not like you can load up in any one area. You really just have to play great team defense, and it's probably the only way you have a chance to slow them down. They've had a lot of big plays this year, and they've got really good players. You just named 4 of them that are really talented. And, they're really good up front as well, very veteran up there. So, you know, and that's their whole team. They've recruited well historically, and now they've done a good job with the portal as well. A couple key additions on the offensive side, running back, center to name two, and obviously the quarterback on top of it. So right up the middle, three really good players. So there really is no weakness there, and it's just a matter of trying to, you know, compete with them each and every down.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Kirk, I know in the offseason you wanted to bring in an offensive coordinator to bring in some new ideas while also respecting complementary football in all three phases of the game. It seems like the players really enjoy working with Coach Lester. You guys have scored 30 in the 3 of the first 4 weeks. The statistics are you know, much different than they've been. I wanted to ask you from your vantage point, what has he brought to this program and how have things been so far?
It's just like when we announced him back in February, I feel the same way. Just first and foremost, a really quality person. And, you know, I've been here 34 years now. I think I've worked with whatever it would be. Let me do the math. 2 coordinators plus 4, 6 coordinators offensively and 3 defensive coordinators in my time here. Fortunate that we have good stability. And I think Tim's been a great fit with the program. Tremendous person, as I said. Outstanding football coach on top of it. Just, you know, very positive and has really good expertise, and you know his passion and love is the offensive side. He was a former quarterback, and you know, I think he's really fitting well with everybody in every regard. I also respect the fact, or appreciate the fact, that he does have, I think, a real perspective of the value of team football, and that's always been important here, at least during my 34 years, and I think he has an appreciation for that too. So he's been a great fit, and you know, happy with the stats so far. But at this point, you know, we've only played 4 games, so. It's kind of like rankings. You know, I think everything pans itself out or bears itself out a little bit more once you get into the latter part of the season.
John Steffi, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Wanted to ask about a couple of players injury-wise. Will Sean Williams and Seth Anderson, are either of them back now after the bye?
Yeah, they both came back at the end of last week, I guess Friday. I think they were both on the field full speed. So, yeah, it's good. And, you know, if there's a positive thing right now, I guess there's a lot of positive things, but one is that we're probably about as healthy as I can remember ever. Yeah, we had a record short medical meeting. Every Monday night we meet medically, myself, Ray, and the medical staff, and happy to say it was short and quick, so that's good. Our body weights are good. So, I mean, a lot of, you know, for this time of year, we're doing pretty well that way.
Jedd Lanning, Des Moines Register. Just curious, obviously, not many people go into Ohio State and win a game, but that's the only stadium really you haven't won in the Big Ten as a head coach. You got it done in '87, but is that like something you'd like to accomplish, I guess, at some point, you know, in your career?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's meaning winning this week is what you're saying? Yeah, so, yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I don't look at it that way, like, you know, haven't done this or haven't done that, but do we want to win this week? Absolutely. Yes, we sure do. And we're trying to prepare for that right now. And there's probably a reason to say, you know, the facts that you just gave. Historically, they've been really good, and they're tough to beat there. We all know that going into it. So, you know, it's all about what we can do to try to get ready. And I don't want to say it took a miracle play, but it was close to that back in '87 over there. And yeah, we were close in '09 and played a heck of a game there in '13. You know, so we've had some times where we've really made it competitive, and I think there's some parallels between all those games. You're gonna have to make some plays. You're gonna have to compete for the full 60 because they were awfully good in '87, and you know they were awfully good in '13. Some similar challenges back then. It felt like they had 12 guys on the field offensively. So you know somehow, some way, you've got to contain them a little bit, and then also you know try to muster up some plays on your end, and it's always a challenge.
Yeah, Scott Docterman with The Athletic. Back a few years ago when the NCAA allowed a 4-game tryout, I guess it was for freshmen or whatever, to allow them to play but then maintain their eligibility. At first, you seemed to be in favor of that, and then a couple of years later, you kind of just said, you know, I wish we would just go to a 5 years to play football. And it sounds like that there's a kind of a growing, swelling. The coaches are coming on along with that. What's your feelings now on this? Because we've seen it kind of manipulated, if you will, in a couple of different situations.
Yeah, that's a new wrinkle. What's happened there is a new wrinkle to some degree. So, I mean, nothing surprises me for a long time, but especially nowadays. But, yeah, I still feel the same way. I think, you know, to me, it would make sense just to give players the option to have 5 years. The trend right now is to be at a place less than longer, as it was, maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, I'd favor that. Certainly would favor that. And then, what you're referencing, what happened last week at a couple places, it's just, it's a reflection of the times, and there's, it is kind of what it is, unfortunately.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. You guys beat Penn State in 2021 at Kinnick, but since then haven't beaten Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State. From your perspective, where do you feel like that gap is maybe between where you're and they're at, and what needs to be done to kind of close that?
Yeah, again, I'm not really looking at it that way. We just take each week individually. But, it kind of goes back. We've been playing pretty good defense. It's an old narrative. We've played pretty well defensively. We've had issues with the offensive line. And then last year we obviously had some challenges at the quarterback spot. So it's yesterday's news. And if you're going to play a team that is nationally ranked, top 10 team, and, those teams you mentioned typically are in that neighborhood, I'm not saying you got to be firing on all three cylinders, but it sure helps. It gives you a chance. And, I guess I look at it the other way. I look at last year. I'll go back to that, because I know a lot's been written about how many points we scored against whoever it was a year ago. And, I think maybe you look at it the other way. Maybe we did a hell of a job winning 10 games. So there's two ways to look at every coin. And talent, there's ebb and flow of talent. I've been here 25 years, going on 26 now, and it's true each and every year. Every year's got its own challenges. You deal with the challenges that are in front of you. Try to play to your strengths and do the best you can on an annual basis. And, over the long haul, we're proud of our record. So, how it all pans out, it's a year-to-year basis kind of thing.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, last week we got the chance to talk to Tim, and he said he felt like the passing game, timing-wise, was maybe closer than it appears. I think some of the players have kind of felt that as well. Cade and a couple others said that they really utilized the bye week to, one, heal up, and two, just kind of continue to work on that timing. Just from your vantage point, what's your kind of assessment with the passing game right now, just as far as timing and trying to piece everything together as the season goes along?
Yeah, I'm only smiling because this is a hell of a week for a test drive. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge there. And just, part of that, too, is blocking their guys up front. They've got an outstanding front. I think they have 8 all-conference players back on defense. Maybe it's 9. I'm not sure. But they've got really good talent. So their back end is really talented and veteran. The front guys are the same way. But I agree with what the players said. I think we're making progress. And I was not overly concerned about the statistics coming out of our last game. I was really pleased with the way we played and just the way we responded in that game. And you play the way the game's going, too. That's the other part of it. And, personally, I hope we don't have 60 pass attempts this week, because if we do, I know what the outcome's going to be. But we're making progress, and I feel like we're progressing pretty much in every area over the last 4 weeks. And now the challenge is we got a 8-week stretch right now. We're just focused on the next 6. But, that's the challenge is make improvement each and every week.
Owen Sebring with KGA. I think it was LeVar Woods last week who was talking about Drew Stevens' growth, and in previous years maybe him having false confidence is what he called it, and this year kind of growing into what is earned confidence maybe. Is that kind of what you've seen in him too? Because he's perfect this year, had a pretty clutch kick against Minnesota at the moment, and hasn't really missed, hasn't faltered at all this year.
Yeah, it's night and day difference, and just in general terms, and again, I can only speak to Iowa because it's about the only place I've been in college football. Certainly in major college football. So for us, it's year 3 is kind of like a magical number, if you will. It seems where guys start to get traction as a rule. Not there's exceptions to everything. And I think Drew's probably a classic example of that. He did a nice job, and 2 years ago really did a really nice job. Last year kind of tailed off at the end. And I think all of us are wondering how he'd respond to that, but he's really come back just extremely, extremely impressive in impressive fashion. Starting in the spring, like he practiced well in the spring, and he's doing a really good job right now. And the kick that he made up into Minnesota was very, very impressive. So he's just, I think LeVar put it really well. It's a true confidence now because he's earned it, and he's more mature physically, certainly. So he's better able to execute his job, and he's just a whole different person. Not only as a football player, as a person too. He was a young guy, and he came here early. And probably wasn't the most physically mature guy. I mean, can imagine what I was like in high school, and he's here trying to play college football. So I thought he did a really good job early, considering But now he's a much different person and football player on top of it.
Scott Docterman again with The Athletic. I wanted to ask about the line of scrimmage. I think most people will jump to the skill position players, but this seems to be a real classic line of scrimmage game.
Yep.
What do you see from specifically on their defensive line that's veteran and tough? What can you do offensively to displace the line of scrimmage and give your team a chance to win?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, snap-to-snap challenge, and on top of that, they're deep. Yeah, they play, and they get ahead in so many games. I mean, early. So their backups are good too. They've got, if you want to call those guys backups, they've got about probably counted at least 8, maybe 10 guys that play and play effectively. And even when games in the first hand, they'll roll some guys in there, keep their other guys fresh. But they're physical. They've got good size, and they use that size. They really play physically, aggressively. They make you block them, and that's easier said than done. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. And their backers, very athletic and very active, and they do a good job letting those guys roam and get to the ball. So and they're good tacklers when they get there. So it's a really their stats are really impressive defensively, and it's for a reason.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. DeShaun got the start against Minnesota. Do you anticipate him being out there to start the game again as well, and just kind of where the position opposite of Jamari is right now?
Yeah, I think he will. But again, that's a position where there's a lot of equity in there. The gap is fairly close, I think, with all 4 guys that we listed back in August. So it's week to week. We'll just let the guys keep playing, keep maturing, and see how they do. And Jamari's playing really well, and he's healthy, so that's a good thing for us. He's a really respected guy and a leader for us.
Jedd Leistico again. I'll try to phrase my question a little better this time. When you have a guy at quarterback who's beaten Ohio State, how much value do you put in that going into a game like this? That somebody's done that at all?
Yeah. I think the bigger pictures, what I referenced earlier is just, he's got experience in the conference in major college football. And, there are quarterbacks that transfer too, but he's had really a lot of success as a major college, playing major college, Power 4, whatever we're called now. You know what I'm talking about? Is it Power 4? Power 4. Okay, so Power 4 experience, where he's played in the big time. But that's helpful. I mean, it's certainly helpful. It's better than going in with a true freshman. But so now I'm triggering thoughts here. I mean, I remember going in there, talking about near misses was 2009, where a really young quarterback who had never started a game went in there, I thought played an outstanding game and probably deserved a better outcome than what we got that day. But, it helps. Experience is good at every position. And you can say about our team, last time we were over there, we were really young offensively. A lot of the same guys are back, but they're certainly different players. And, this is a whole different circumstance, different teams, all that stuff. But, it's in my mind, it's better to have experience than not have experience, certainly in a case like this.
Hey, Kirk, Elliott Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. Talking with Caleb a little bit this morning, Caleb Johnson. He had said, being from Ohio, that though he didn't get the offer from Ohio State, he didn't really feel like he had a chip on his shoulder. He just always wanted to beat them. That type of mentality. I guess I'm just curious as to what having that type of mentality from arguably your best player kind of does for your offense.
Yeah, I mean, I hope all of our guys have that attitude because that's what it's going to take. I mean, we're playing a really outstanding football team. So, I don't know how big a factor that's going to be, but, he's really been running well this year, as all of us know. He's been really focused and motivated. And I'm not saying he wasn't motivated before, but I think he's really focused on the right things now, and it's showing up in his performance. And we just talked about, Drew Stevens going into year 3. I think that's a factor here too, just the, better understanding the challenges of college football. And it'll be one this week. Nobody's really run through these guys very effectively. So it's going to be a real tough challenge. The holes are going to close quick. And, I'm just standing here thinking about a particular play back in 2008. We're playing Penn State where, I'm standing there watching. I think we got about an 8 to 10 yard gain and ended up being 4-yard gain because Navarro Bowman closed the gap. And that's when you play a team like this, those gaps get, those gaps that look pretty good, all of a sudden shrink fast. And, so it's going to take everybody's best performance, and certainly Caleb can help us out. But, he's doing a really nice job.
John Steffi, Cedar Rapids Gazette, kind of along those lines, how do you evaluate the run blocking through the first 4 games? And is there anything else that you kind of attribute in terms of the really much improved rushing offense, top 10 in the country at this point?
Our back is, all of our backs are running well, but Caleb certainly is running as well as anybody we've had in quite a while. But we're 4 games into it, so we're not ready to have a parade quite yet. And then, I said this back in August. I think we're a little bit more mature, certainly up front, and better than we've been the last couple of years. No knock on anybody that's been out there playing the last couple of years, but we've had our challenges, and fortunately we've been healthy with these guys. They've been beat up a little bit, and they've experienced disappointment on the field, and now they're starting to have some success. I think they all realize this is going to be a huge challenge for them, but I think they're ready for it and eager for it. But it all goes together, and having an experienced quarterback helps too. And he's starting, I think, look a little bit more comfortable out there, which is something we were concerned about after a 2-year gap. So I think it's a positive as well. But everything kind of has to go together, and at some point the passing game will complement the run game a little bit better. And when you get that going, then you get a chance to have a good offense.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Coach, like you mentioned earlier, games do get played on Saturdays. Point spreads don't determine the outcome of games. Just talking to the players earlier today, they seem to really lean into, I guess, the underdog mentality of a team. Do you encourage your players to lean into the fact that it's like, hey, nobody's picking us to win, let's go out and see what happens?
No, I mean, they're pretty smart guys, and they probably know spreads a lot better than I do because I don't know them. So I'm sure, we're playing a top 5 team, so I'm sure we're underdogs. I get that. And but no, I think the important thing is for guys, whether it's a chip on the shoulder or the point spread, whatever. The important thing is just to understand, what it is, what it's going to take in terms of execution to have a chance to be successful. And first thing, you can't squander any opportunities. You really can't do that. And there's examples of their opponents, and Ohio State's got a lot to do with that. They force mistakes, they force turnovers or takeaways, and things like that. And then if you do get an opportunity, you got to cash in on it. And if you leave things out there in the field, chances are you're going to pay for it. And that's what happens anytime you're playing in a game against a ranked team, whether it's this game or I reference the Penn State game in 08 or the 09 game. I mean, those little things. It's that old cliche, the 5-8 plays on Sunday. You look at those and say, it's kind of where it's at.
Kirk, John Sears, WHO-TV. When you look at Ohio State's defense, giving up less than a touchdown a game, 60 yards on the ground, you guys counter with the rushing attack. When you have a game where they may force you to try to pass, do you still try to stick to your guns and run the ball? What you do best, or do you have to kind of alter sometimes with when they're really good on defense?
Yeah, and that's part of the. As I referenced a little while ago, stats can be a little misleading 4 games into it. Sometimes they're right on. But I think in their case, what it reflects to me is that, if you look at the halftime scores, pretty much. First game was a 10-point game, and then they just, they rolled in the second half. I think Marshall was 14 points at half. And then Ohio State, I believe, scored right off the bat, start the second half. So all of a sudden you're back to 21. And I know this, if we're playing in that kind of a hole in the second half, it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be hard to stay to any game plan other than you got to score quick. And that's good for the defense typically. So, the first challenge is try to keep it where you have an opportunity to be balanced. And, against a team that's this talented, just in general terms, I guess my belief is, you can't just be all pass or all run unless that's all you do. And we're not an option team, so you got to be able to pass the ball a little bit. So that is going to be the challenge. We're going to have to find that right mix and try to be effective in both regards to have a chance to be in the ball game.
Hi, Kirk. Jack Lito with KCRG. I know we've asked a lot, especially to Coach Lester, about the new headset communication deal that goes off after 15 when the play clock gets to 15. Knowing what happened last week at Minnesota, basically with the added context of that headset, does it change any preparation with how you go up against the crowd of 100,000 that it's frankly it's going to be the loudest crowd you'll see all year? Yeah,
I don't think so. I think, again, it's just very helpful. And, we still have the wristband stuff and all that, just in case of the thing, because you have to be prepared if it goes down. That's the bad side about technology. Power failures are a challenge. So if it goes down, you have to have Plan B ready. But I think it's helpful. And, we're a very wordy system now, because of the West Coast offense. So there's I think it's been helpful. And to me, it's just better for the game. So I'm all for it. I think it's been good for everybody.
Scott again from the Athletic. Wanted to kind of bring you back to the 2013 game over there, which was very competitive all the way through the fourth quarter, and I think they're just athletes kind of paced the rest of the game. But you started out primarily running a lot of 13 personnel and really battering them, and Brandon Sheriff played maybe the best offensive line game I've ever seen by a lineman. When you look at that game, how do you analyze, can you project anything like that again into the future in this type of environment, or is just the game has changed too much to be?
Yeah, I'm always smiling. How old was I in 13? 2013. I was a lot younger then. That's good. So anyway, yes and no. Philosophically, that was our plan, try to keep the ball out of their hands a little bit and eat some clock and, score some points. And Doozy had that long reception, which really helped the cause a little bit. So I think we pretty much got what we wanted accomplished that day. But to your point, in the fourth quarter, we just, felt like there were 12 guys, I said, with Carlos side. And then Braxton Miller, I think, was a quarterback, right, who could run and throw. So, but long story short, I don't think it's going to help us. This is just a whole different outfit. And so, we're trying to get a feel for them a little bit and how we're going to, face up. And then, it's nothing new, but it's always a challenge when you try to think about yourself formationally and what you're doing versus what you see on film, and we're a little bit different than most people. So, you're doing some projecting, and it's just, there's a lot of guesswork that goes into it, and it's been that way forever. So, at some point we'll just kind of do what we do and try to match it up with anticipation what they may do. And the good news is that they can only do so many things, but it's more concerning just about how they do it. They do it really well, and they're pretty effective. So. And since Coach Knowles has gotten there, they've really been good on defense. Not that they weren't before, but they're pretty good right now.
Mitch Vick, KGA, and just wondering what you remember about Jim Lachey's playing days. I think you would have seen him a couple times back in the 80s, and what's the relationship been like with him now that Luke's here? Yeah, so I don't. We've got a mutual friend that I guess he was kind of a late bloomer, which is interesting. Because he was a first-round player and a really good player at Ohio State, and they've had a lot of really good offensive linemen, outstanding pro career. And so, I really didn't know him as a player. I knew a couple guys on the Redskins that, had gone through Pitt that were teammates of his. And then he ended up in San Diego, and, but I know him as a parent, and he's been just tremendous, really great. And they're a great family, unbelievable family, very close family, and do a lot of things together. And I think, Jim's had a great life, and he's got a great life professionally beyond football, and that's a cool thing. So it's been great having Luke in the program. He's just a stellar young person. I've been a team captain every week, and my guess is that'll continue. He's just a great leader, and that's really the fun part about all this stuff is getting to know the individuals and then the players' families on top of it, and all the good things that come with that. So they've been great parents, and he's in a little bit of a dilemma. I think Luke told me he's going to see 3 games this year. Obviously, this will be one of them. He'll be working it, but they're bye weeks, and I guess they have a Friday night game, or we got one where he's be able to get to him. So that's cool too. Okay, thank you. See you over there.
Film pretty much looked exactly what I thought. Defense played well second and third quarter. We didn't really execute well offensively, and that kind of wore on the defense. And, when you're playing a high-powered, explosive offense like they had, it kind of took its toll on them, and, they were able to get some plays. But, a few bright spots in there. Sharif got a couple plays in there. He batted down a pass. Run game looked a lot better. Wish we could have just ran it a little bit more, but the situation of the score kind of kept us from doing that. And, Bag came through again, hit a 53-yarder, I believe it was. So, there's a few bright spots, and, just looking forward to this week. It's an early game, 9 o'clock for us, but we practice in the morning. not right now, but we usually practice in the morning. So just looking forward to it and see how my guys perform.
Is Ethan going to be able to practice tonight?
Maybe. You know, he's out here, but I would rather him rest today just to give Justin a couple more reps just to make sure, just in case Ethan isn't available. But he's in good spirits, and, you know, I'm looking forward to see what he can do later on in the week.
That sounds encouraging, though.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to Ethan, he told me he was playing, so I would, unless we hold him out, you know, he's going to try to get out there and play.
Just worst case scenario, who's quarterback 3 that would be potentially getting ready for the game?
Nick Billups, and then Double H is after that, Henry Hasselbeck.
You said you wanted actions, not words. What sorts of things are you looking for tonight from these guys? Just all week, really.
Just, you know, I want to just see attention to detail, similar to our walk that we had earlier. I just want to see guys just locked in and practicing with intent. You know, I don't want to see a whole bunch of plays reran because something happened. I just want to see them be able to get out there and execute and do exactly what they're being coached to do.
How have you seen Josh Carling kind of take ownership of the starting center role and, you know, all the intangibles that kind of come with that too?
He's just he's a true leader. You know, he's somebody that's going to try to help the team out no matter what. So, you know, I saw a couple of his quotes, and he's putting a lot on himself. And you know, it's a collective. It's not just Josh Carling, but you know, when you have leaders like that, they're just going to own it. And you know, hopefully we can get this going offensively.
It's the second time you had the evening practice on the Mondays. This morning I saw some of the guys in Drake Stadium. Like, what's that extra time kind of helped with so far?
Just mostly with game planning and stuff, and then giving guys just a little bit more time to sleep in a little bit, and then just work on their bodies throughout the day. You know, so I kind of like to schedule just a little bit on Mondays just to help guys. And since we do play some night games with this, because I believe the next week, but we won't get into that, but just to have something at night, you know what I mean?
Sitiveni Havili Kafusi looked like he was in street clothes during the game, but he wasn't on the injury report. You know, what's his status?
He got cleared a little late in the week, probably that Friday, but he didn't practice, so we couldn't throw him out there. You know, I wouldn't want to put him in a bad situation, but he'll be out here today.
What kind of progress has Justin made, and what do you think he took from that playing time when he had the last game too?
It's just more of just getting him reps, live reps. You know, there wasn't a lot of tackling out here during spring or fall camp, so it's just good to get some of the younger quarterbacks that haven't played in games just live reps. And I think he handled it pretty well, and you know, hopefully we can build on that for Justin.
You saw Jalen Jeffers at left tackle, and I think Prongo slid over there. What are you looking for there? What's kind of like the plan going forward?
You know, Ruben ended up leaving with an injury, so Jeffers was next up, and he performed well and stuff, and Prongos has played there before, so it's just mostly, you know, just guys just making plays and trying to find the combination that works. But you know, when guys get banged up, it's hard to keep them out there. But you know, they all wanted to fight, stay out there. Ruben didn't want to come out of the game, but it was just unfortunate that he had an injury.
With the situation on the defensive line, obviously you got an extended look at AJ. What would you see out of him in the game?
It was just good for another guy to get some reps, you know, for AJ to get in there, and also Ciale. So, you know, they a lot more reps than they've gotten in the past games. So it was good just to see guys and see how they perform tired, see if they're executing and stuff like that. But, you know, Ciale played a good game, and AJ did also.
We saw Logan Loy at punt return, but I don't think he played on offense. Has he just got surpassed in the rotation by a couple guys right now? Or?
No, he was just dealing with a little bit. It was a long week for Logan, so he was just dealing with a little bit. And he's for sure hands back there on punt return, so he was still able to give us a little bit of that.
You talked about the defense. Did they execute their game plan? Is that what you saw?
Defensively?
Defensively, like especially in, like you said, the second and third quarter, you shut them out.
I mean, second and third quarter, yeah, they were able to execute and do exactly what was asked of them. It was just that, you know, we kind of offensively we weren't able to get the ball going and move around as much as we like, so it kind of put them in a couple unfortunate situations and stuff. But I think the defense is doing a good job. Guys are still playing hard. You know, that interception right before half really gave us some juice and some life. And, you know, just hopefully we can continue to build off that.
Go
what are some of the little things that are going to be needed to put together a more complete game, you know, as opposed to, you know, just a couple of quarters here and there?
It's just mostly the details, you know. We have we had, I think, 10 penalties or 9 penalties or something like that, so we've had too many penalties. For our first pillar to be disciplined, that's way too many, you know, so we're working on that right now. Just, you know, just play within yourself, guys. Don't get out there and try to do something out of the ordinary or do something that you weren't coached to do. So we just need guys to settle down, and, you know, like, it's weird because we come out in the first quarter and we're not exactly settled, and then as the game goes along, you can see we kind of settle down. So, you know, we're just working on trying to make a fast start going, and guys just have something to build on and continue to try to make plays.
I know before the LSU game, you showed them a fight. I don't remember which one it was, but have you done anything creative like that this week so far? And do you have anything up your sleeve in terms of creative motivation?
You know, they watch this, so we can't give up the secrets, but each week I try to give them something, something that's similar to what the game is, you know, who we're playing against, and just a certain situation. I like boxing a lot, so a lot of it's boxing. But, just try to give, you know, just to give the guys just a couple analogies and just stuff like that they can watch and just build off of it. That'll kind of motivate them a little bit.
What other fights have you shown them?
This past week it was Spinks and Tyson. The second one was Tyson and Buster Douglas. And the first week it was Mike against somebody. I can't remember the first week.
Okay, so bloodbaths, yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, so just showing them heavyweight fights and, you know, just the type of situations that we're in. And I'm just huge because it's about us. You know, I don't think that we've reached our full potential, so I'm trying to just get them, you know, refocus on ourselves and get going. You know, I think we can play really well.
How's the timeline adjusted? Are you going to get out to Beaker Stadium a little bit early on Friday, and then obviously you have a 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff?
We'll probably travel the same, you know, probably just very similar to what we did at LSU. So I think that worked out a little bit for us. This may be a little earlier game, but these guys are up at this time usually practicing, so I don't think the time should be too much of a factor for us.
Just want to ask about game management question. I think at LSU you were down 17 with 4.5 left, punted, and then against Oregon down 21 with about 7 minutes left and punted. I just want to know what was kind of the thinking there.
What was it?
Chance.
What was it down in distance?
4th and 10 in both at your own 41.
4th and 10.
So long odds, basically.
I mean, if we haven't been successful moving the ball offensively, then you guys will be talking about why are you punting the ball? Why are you going for a 4th and 10 on your 41? You know what I mean? So just you can kind of look at that and think like, okay, is that a good situation to do that in no matter what the score is? Or should I put them in a worse situation if we don't get it? And now you guys are telling me about my decisions on 4th down. Right?
Well, I guess the counterpoint would be you still have a chance.
Just because you punt, that's not saying that you're giving up, because we haven't given up in any of the games that we've played in. One thing that I can say is that these guys are playing hard no matter what, so it's not a giving up situation. And if my team is still playing well and they're playing hard, then yeah, but if offensively we're not moving the ball well enough, then I'm not going to put them in a situation just to try to get the first down.